So I just got home after watching Supergirl, and let me just say that all my expectations were met in this movie. And by expectations, I mean that I absolutely knew that this movie was going to be bad. I don't want to call it trash, but it hurts me to my soul as a hardcore DC fan to talk about this movie the way I'm about to talk about this movie. But before I really dive deep into it, and this is going to be a really short video because I haven't done videos in a minute, but after seeing this movie, I really had to do a video. Again, the quality is not great, but I had to talk about this because it's just bubbling in me right now. So before I really dive deeper into this movie, let's just talk about the good parts about this movie. Um, the best part in this movie for me was Lobo. Jason Momoa really brought it as Lobo. I mean, if there's one thing we've always known as DC fans is he was born to play this character. I mean, there's certain actors that you see and you automatically picture them portraying a certain character. I mean, we never really knew what we were going to get with Robert Downey Jr. when he was cast as Iron Man, but right now you cannot see anybody else playing Iron Man. Same thing for Henry Cavill as Superman, right? Same thing as Jared Leto. Well, not Jared Leto. Heath Ledger as a Joker, right? There's certain actors they bring out certain characters, but we saw Lobo way before. Oh, we saw Jason Momoa playing Lobo way before Lobo was a thing because we knew that he was going to play this. I think we always knew, as DC fans, we always knew if there was a character he was born to play, especially in the DC universe, it was going to be Lobo. And he did, and he brought it, and he, to me, was the best part about this movie. I really hope that there's a spin-off show, hopefully rated R, with Lobo, because again, he didn't really have a lot of screen time in this movie, but whatever screen time he had, he brought, right? His gravitas, and it almost feels like they decided to bring him on because they needed somebody to sell this movie. Kind of like what The Rock tried to do with Henry Cavill as Superman. Remember when The Rock, because we knew they had so many reshoots because a lot of their screenings, fans would tell them it was bad, and then last minute, the last month and a half, The Rock brought Henry Cavill back, and then all he did from that point on was try to sell that the DCEU is changing because the power is shifting. And then we saw the movie, and it was a big old piece of trash. They did the same thing here. I feel like that because again, he didn't really have a lot of screen time, but like I said, to me, he was the best part of this movie. So the title of this really short video is DC made a really cool Marvel movie. And it showed. This movie, Supergirl, looked, seemed, felt like I was watching a Marvel movie. Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, where to start? It was really hard to follow this movie in like certain times. It was like they were trying to tell so many different stories. 1 minute it was a sci-fi, 1 minute it was an adventure, 1 minute it was a horror movie. Like, it was so hard to follow this movie, and you kind of understand coming from what we heard, right? Leading up to this movie, that they were doing a lot of reshoots, and it felt like they were really trying to mesh a lot of things together. It felt that way to me. Now, again, it might feel different to you, but it felt that way to me. Supergirl, Kara Zor-El, played by Millie Alcock. Again, I like her in House of Dragon. I really do. In this movie, she's way more mature, obviously, than in that show. But again, this is not a diss on her as an actress or an actor. There was just something off, and there's pacing issue in this movie. But her as Kara Zor-El, it was so frustrating because like I said, they were trying to tell so many different stories, and you couldn't really tell where they were going. 1 minute it feels like an origin story, the next minute it was like you really tried to follow this movie, you really did, but again, it would shift and it would direct you and push you, and and for a movie that is supposed to really bring out this, you know, this character that we really, well, we've seen on TV a few times, right? We saw in the movie in The Flash, right? I really like that version, that suit, even though, again, even with that one, we didn't really get a lot of screen time with Supergirl. But with this movie, I think they really fell short in really bringing her out, and I know, James Gunn really wanted to really stick to the comics, but DC is different. DC is not Marvel, Marvel is not DC, but you can tell. Again, I don't know, and I don't understand this fascination of trying to make DC movies look like Marvel movies, and with ill-timed humor or too much of it, or say what you say. You had a lot of people bashing Zack Snyder's movies because it had a lot of what do you call it? Slow motion scenes. Well, this movie had a bunch of slow motion scenes. There's one scene in this movie, I swear it was out of Guardians of the Galaxy 1. I swear. It just felt like it towards the end. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it felt like I was watching a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The villain in this movie, the antagonist of this movie, if there's one thing DC has over Marvel, is some incredible, incredible villains. Some villains feel more like they feel bigger in a movie or in a story than the superhero. You think about the Joker. If you remember The Dark Knight, when you left the movie theater, you didn't even talk about Batman. You talked about the Joker. When you left Man of Steel, we'd never really seen Zod like that, right? There's just something about DC villains, from Scarecrow to the Riddler, right? There's just something about that. The villain in this movie, number one, he was not even comic accurate. That's one. Two, he was the most unforgettable villain you've ever seen. There was really nothing about this person, nothing about this character that made you believe this is a villain to be reckoned with, right? He's going up against a Kryptonian. So you'd think you'd want a villain, if you're playing opposite, kind of like the way Lex plays opposite of Superman, you would think there'd be that. Not even close. This movie sucked. And I feel bad saying it as a core DC fan. I'm more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan. I'm a comic book fan, but I grew up more of a DC fan, and you guys know it. This movie really fell short. It really did, and it's really sad to say. But again, I'm not surprised, because Superman last year sucked. I watched that movie once. Haven't watched it again, probably will never watch it again. I've watched Man of Steel maybe 5 or 6 times since then. Tells you something. This movie, I will never watch it again, or I have no interest in watching it again. I might watch it accidentally if I'm watching it with other people, but I don't know what direction James Gunn is taking DC, but you have lost your core group of fans. You have. And we've said it, we've been saying it. You've lost your core group of fans. And I honestly don't see them coming back, because you keep giving us crap and crap. And as we're talking right now, a lot of his projects are being canceled. A lot of the projects he named when he took over DC, a lot of them are canceled. That should tell you something. Anyway, it's been long enough. Yeah, this movie sucked. From the pacing to the story, even the visuals. At some point, it felt like we were watching an HBO special. No disrespect to HBO, but it didn't feel like we were watching a really cool James Gunn visual, colorful movie. It was just weird. So it sucked in all aspects. So I don't know. Let me know what you think if you go watch this movie. I'm not going to tell you not to go watch it. But I am really sad for the current state of affairs when it comes to DC. I have zero. I mean, I'm more excited to see the Batman animated movie coming out later on this year than I was to watch this movie. That should tell you something. Anyway, I hope you all are having a really awesome start to your summer. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.